You know, people asking me what color my blood is. When I went back home to Nigeria on holidays and I came back, they would ask me what my hut looked like, or did I swing from tree to tree to see my neighbors. Like, the madness that I had to endure. And my viewpoint really is, it's not about, you know, framing my child's mind to think the world is gonna hate me but because I'm black. Hey beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mimi with Just Doing Me. Today we're going to be talking about dating outside of your race, whether or not you should be colorblind, whether or not your partner should be colorblind. Should you acknowledge that you are black, he is white, you are white, they are black, or should it just be something that doesn't really need to be acknowledged at all? So I'm going to get into this video. This video is sponsored by KLAIYI hair. That is the bomb hair that I'm rocking. The hair will be linked in my description box, and I'll be installing it and laying it in this video as well. Looking good, feeling good, eh? Today I've got a chatty kind of like get ready with me styling my hair type of video. I'm going to be talking to you guys about whether or not being colorblind when it comes to dating is a good thing, and of course I'm going to be drawing on my experiences and just like things that have come up because I've dated outside of my race many times. So I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the topic while customizing and installing this wig. This wig is from KLAIYI hair and they have sponsored this video. I have worn their that's soft. I've worn their hair before and that lasted, I think I wore that hair almost every day for 3 months because I used to wear it to the gym, so it was always getting sweaty, it was always like in the spa, getting a lot of chlorine on it. I was constantly washing it and the quality was just bomb. Like, you can't do that with every wig. So super happy to be working with KLAIYI hair again. This is how the hair comes. So yeah, I got 24 inches of body wave and the hair is so soft. I've brushed the curls out. It's so bouncy. So the wig comes with baby hairs already in place. I will be trimming those. I've got a whip cap one. I'm probably going to slide that back a little bit. Yeah. Slide that back to there. And it looks to me like the hairline's already been plucked a little bit, but I may or may not pluck it a bit more. Let's see how we get on. So yes, this hair, by the way, of course, will be linked in my description box. I'm just going to be installing it. So already I can tell you that the hair is full. There is a lot, a lot of hair in this wig. It's got 2 clips on each side right here and nothing in the middle, so that should help it lay a little bit flatter. I think I'm going to go for a center parting. By the way, this is my birthday hair. It's your girl's birthday party tomorrow night, so we need to customize this to the max. I have put some makeup just on the inside of the lace, but I might end up putting a bit more on there as well. And I'm just going to be trying a new install method because, to be honest, I just feel like my lace laying skills recently have not been as good as they were previously. So I'm going to try some new-ish. I'm going to be using the Got2b glue. Ooh, there is a lot of hair in this, guys. God, wow. I'm going to be using the Got2b glue spray and also the gel and the spray because I saw somebody do that, so I'm going to give that a go. But first of all, time to cut the lace. So guys, I wanted to talk to you today about, oh, by the way, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video, especially if you keep coming back for my videos, my chit chat content. Be popping. Interracially, you're dating someone that's not of the same ethnicity as you. Should you be color blind, which is basically like people when they say they don't see the skin tone? Should you see that person's skin tone? Should you acknowledge that yes, you are dating a person of a different ethnicity to you? Or should you be team skin doesn't really matter, I see their soul, blah blah blah, yada yada yada? I think you guys can probably tell, you know, where my thoughts are at on this topic. As someone who's dated outside of my race quite a lot, and I've dated guys that, you know, date a lot of black girls, I wasn't the first, and then I've dated a lot of guys where I was the first black girl they'd ever dated. It's a new experience. I think most of them would admit that they do see skin tone. They're very aware that this is the first time they're dating a black girl. But recently I dated a guy who kind of said to me that like he didn't even see my skin color, or well, he didn't say he didn't see my skin color. He's actually never said that. Let me not put words in his mouth. But basically the way he was moving, he was trying to move like my skin tone, the fact that I'm a black woman, you know, that I'm a darker skinned black woman, was not relevant. And I understand where it may not be the biggest issue to you. It may not be like that much of an important factor to you. Like that's not the reason why you're dating someone, hopefully, because of the color of their skin. Hopefully there should be more reasons why. So I understand why he felt that like my skin tone just wasn't that big a deal. I can do the same for this side. Okay guys, so I've just trimmed off the excess lace. But yeah, so this guy that I was dating earlier on this year, got to be good time, I was the first black girl he'd ever dated. And you know, for me it was very evident, because most of the guys that I've dated that were not black, not of the same race as me, you know, it's not really like, I'm not someone who likes discussing race a lot. I don't really want race to become, you know, the central focus of the relationship. But I feel like I need the person that I'm dating to acknowledge that I am a black woman, I'm a woman of darker skin tone, and that my experiences are probably going to be pretty different, you know, from, you know, the experience. If this is the first time I've dated a black girl, of course, my experiences are going to be pretty different from the other races of women that you've dated. My upbringing, maybe even some of the things that I believe in, maybe my political views. I feel like I need that to be acknowledged, because, you know, let's not act like we live in a society where everybody's equal. It's not. So what I'm bringing to the table, or where I am as a fully grown, developed adult woman, is going to be based in large part on my experience as a black woman. So I'm going to need you to acknowledge that we've had different experiences, not just in the difference between the other girls that you've dated that were different ethnicity to me, but also in our experiences. Because you, as, let's just say, a white male, you know, unwittingly, you've lived a life of privilege. Let's be honest. White men, generally, life of privilege. Not like a life of privilege that like you're living some luxury life or whatever, but you benefit from white privilege. You benefit from people not judging you based upon your skin tone in a negative way most of the time. You know, being a black woman or being a black person, often you find that that can impact, you know, how people view you, your education level, your manners, how they have stereotypes of what they think black people are like. You know, it can also impact your ability to get different jobs. So there's lots of different things that, you know, when you're black, or even different races, like your experiences will shape and frame, you know, your outlook on life. So this guy never dated a black girl before, very evident in some of his views. I remember him once saying to me that he felt like white people shouldn't be demonized anymore for their colonial past, and that actually colonialism should have been celebrated, because what the white man, or what the English man, was able to do and accomplish in terms of building one of the greatest colonies and empires is something that should have actually been celebrated as opposed to demonized. And you guys can already imagine that I kicked off. Look, yeah, just because I'm dating a white guy doesn't mean I am not woke, darling. Your girl is woke, and if you're going to be dating me, you're going to need to be woke to a certain degree, and you're going to need to be educated, because for me that was just the height and the definition of ignorance. Why on earth should we be celebrating colonialism and celebrating the fact that, you know, your ancestors felt that they were well within their rights to invade other people's countries and steal their natural resources and take what didn't belong to them, enslave and rape their people? Like, why should that be celebrated in any way, shape or form? So that was actually one of the first disagreements we had, but it was just a case of me like saying absolutely not. This is the reason why we will not be celebrating your colonial past. I don't agree with you know, people nowadays, or white people nowadays, being demonized for their ancestors, because let's be honest, none of us can really control what our ancestors be doing, but at the same time we ain't gonna celebrate you, boo. So that was the first time, and for me, like, it was clearly ignorance, but the way to battle ignorance isn't saying no, I'm not gonna date you, like I'm outraged or whatever. The best way to battle ignorance is obviously education. So, and he was someone who was willing to listen, thank God. So I was just like, look, this is why that's not gonna fly. This is what colonialism really looked like for the rest of the people that were actually colonized, not just you guys that were the colonial masters. This is what it looked like for us, and the fact that we're still suffering from the impact of colonialism till today. So yeah, that was like one of the first examples. But you know, my boy was ignorant. Ignorance is not cured overnight. So I remember later on in the relationship, I asked him, I was just like, because he's made some comments that just led me to think, my God, like, you're actually scaring me. Like, you're so asleep. I'm actually shook. I'm actually scared. So he made a comment, and I remember saying to him, okay, so let's say we have kids now. Let's say we have kids. We have a daughter, mixed race, half Nigerian, half English, and something, God forbid, happens to me, I'm not around in the picture anymore. Like, how are you going to make sure that she's still in touch with her black heritage? What are you going to do to make sure that she's, you know, still in touch with her Nigerian roots and she doesn't lose her identity? Homeboy actually said to me, well, he's not even going to bother because that's impossible. How can he possibly make sure that she's still in touch with her Nigerian heritage? So he's just not gonna bother at all. I was just like, rah, are you actually kidding me? Like, you're that what's the word, you're that naive, you're that ignorant that you think that, like, you can do nothing. Like, your daughter shouldn't be exposed to half of her heritage and half of who she is. I was just like, no, absolutely not. There are things you can do. I still have family. You know, you're just going to cut off my family and make sure she's in touch with her Nigerian family, help her to travel. There's so much that you can still do. And this, I think, is part of the reason why a lot of mixed race people suffer, from what I understand, with identity issues, because some of their partners just think, like, if things don't work out, just think, well, I'm not going to bother, it's difficult, so I'm not going to actually try and make sure that my child, you know, understands where they come from, understands maybe the language, or understands their culture, understands their food, has been to this place where they're from. And I think it's a really terrible thing. That was just one of the examples. And I remember saying to him, like, okay, but what are you going to do? Because she's going to have different experiences from, you know, a lot of the girls that she grows up with at school. What are you going to do then to prepare her for that if you're not even really going to teach her about where she's from? And he's like, well, I'm not going to put it in her head that she's going to have different experiences. I'm not going to, like, set her up to be thinking, oh, I'm a black girl or I'm a mixed race girl, the world is against me. And I was like, okay, I get that you don't want to frame her outlook from a negative point of view, but you need to prepare her, because whether or not you don't see her color, the rest of the world will see her color. And, you know, you're not going to do her any justice by, you know, pretending like she's white or pretending she's not half black. You're not going to do her any favors whatsoever. I remember saying this to my sister, I think just a week ago, like, does she think being colorblind is a good thing? And she was like, yeah, she's colorblind. She doesn't think it's important, the person's race. I'm like, well, okay, let's say you don't think it's important. You're happy to date whatever race, you know, but surely you want to prepare your child. And she was also of the viewpoint that she didn't want to put a negative point of view across. But the more I spoke to her, she was like, okay, actually, I get where you're coming from. And my viewpoint really is, it's not about, you know, framing my child's mind to think the world is going to hate me, but because I'm black. It's actually about preparing her for the differences, because a large part of the world, got to be spray, is ignorant. Let's not pretend that a large part of the world isn't ignorant. A large part of the world isn't still quite racist. You know, if you fail to prepare your child, you're not doing them any justice. And I'll tell you why. When I was in school, Like my parents, obviously coming from Nigeria, they weren't really so I moved to England when I was 6 with my parents, and they weren't really, this first time ever dealing with white people. They didn't really know much about the English culture, so like they couldn't really prepare me in the sense of they didn't really know kind of how, or the challenges that I might face, or how I might be treated at school. They weren't aware, they didn't know, they couldn't really prepare me. But that meant that I had to deal with a lot of ish. I remember when I was 13, I'd only been at the school, a new school, just after I got back from boarding school in Nigeria. I went to boarding school in Nigeria for 2 years. I remember one of these kids saying to me, as a guy, very big guy, quite aggressive, kind of like a school bully. I remember him shouting at me, "We'll go back to Africa." And I was like, no, you know, I've got mouth and I've got attitude. So I was like, hell no, you can't talk to me like that. And I remember he spat in my face. And, you know, I was in tears. He actually ended up getting expelled for that. But that was like one of the first times, you know, that I'd really experienced such aggressive outright racism. But apart from just aggressive outright racism, there was a lot of covert racism that I endured. You know, people asking me what color my blood is. When I went back home to Nigeria on holidays and I came back, they would ask me what my hut looked like, or did I swing from tree to tree to see my neighbors. Like the madness that I had to endure in this, I've got to let that dry for a bit, you know, all because of ignorance, was crazy. And I remember I talked to another black guy. First of all, I went to a predominantly white school. There really weren't any black guys or black girls in my school. But this was a black guy from another school that I met up with. He was a friend of a friend. I remember him saying to me his experiences, that he would have kids at his school bring bleach to his school and chuck bleach at him, saying that they wanted to whiten his skin. They wanted to fix his skin. He was actually mixed race, actually. He wasn't even black. And they wanted to like fix his skin so he was white. You know, just awful racist experiences, especially when you're a child. I think as you grow older, people realize it's not acceptable, you're gonna get in trouble. But that was kind of what I had to deal with growing up in a predominantly white environment. And I'm going to definitely prepare my daughter, because I feel like I wasn't prepared mentally. My mum was always like, if somebody is you tell them, you fight back. And she gave me that fighter spirit, that when people were rude to me, like I was able to combat it. I remember one time I went to Nigeria, you know, and I brought back pictures, you know, of like, you guys have seen my house in Nigeria, you know, it's like a 7-bedroom, huge in comparison to British standards. I brought back lots of pictures, like, yeah, here's my hut, bitch. You know, so I had my own ways of coping with it, because I'm a very strong character. But at the same time, I can see why, God, this is taking ages. Let's use the blow dryer. At the same time, I can see why other people would struggle. You know, people that aren't as strong as me would struggle. And I want to definitely do what I can to alleviate any of this for my daughter, and just prepare her. Look, if she is mixed race, God knows she might end up being black, you just don't know, but if she's mixed race, just let her know, look, you are going to probably have even a different experience from me, but you're certainly going to have a different experience from, you know, the other white girls in your school. People might look at you and judge you. You might endure racism, overt racism, covert racism. You might have to endure some negative stereotypes about you or about your family. People might say things about your mum and dad. You know, these are things that I just want her to be prepared for. And also in the sense of even the boys, letting them know that there are certain things that they probably can't get away with, that they might see their white friends doing, and they can't really get away with doing that because already they're being perceived in a certain way. Already, if there's trouble, they may be the ones that the fingers already going to be pointed at. And I feel like my brother had that experience. My older brother got into a lot of trouble when he was in school, and again, predominantly white school, you know, and he was doing a lot of the same stuff that his friends were doing, but my brother ended up getting expelled. You know, he ended up getting expelled and you know, most of his white friends had absolutely nothing happen to them. So these are the things that obviously I want to make sure I make it easier for my child. Not obviously to put like the world is this awful place, no one's gonna like you, but I want my child to know, boy or girl, I want them to know that, oh, that's already dry. I'm gonna have to stick that down again. So I'd want my kids to know that they're being scrutinized to a higher degree, and I want them to be prepared. Obviously the world is going to be what you make of it. If you look at it from a negative perspective all the time, then you're going to see racism everywhere. But at the same time, there is racism. You need to be prepared. And that's just kind of how I feel about it. So I don't want anyone dating me and saying they don't see my skin color. No, darling, I'm going to need you to see my skin color. I'm going to need you to acknowledge it. And I'm going to need you to respect it. You know, I want you to respect that, like, if there are certain things, like, about how we raise our kids that you might not be able to really give perspective to, because you've never experienced, you know, people asking you to go back to Africa, or people asking you what color your blood is, like, and I'm gonna need you to realize that although you may not have been through that, this is very real. Because I hate people that can't see, just because you don't see the world a certain way doesn't mean that other people feel the same. Just because you're not racist doesn't mean other people aren't racist. And I'm gonna need you to acknowledge the fact that there are people out there that will make your daughter's life miserable, and we need to prepare for that. So no surprises, the relationship with me and this guy just never worked out, because I just felt like, look, I can't trust you, boo. Like, imagine something actually happening to me and you actually thinking, yep, it's great, now we can raise Chloe or we can raise Samantha any way we like. No, bitch, no, you cannot. You know, Chloe or Samantha are gonna need to be raised acknowledging their ancestry, acknowledging their roots, acknowledging their heritage, acknowledging that part of their culture. And I feel like it's the same for me though. Like, if anything were to happen to my significant other and my child was mixed race or half white or half Italian or whatever, I would want to make sure that that child was also exposed to that part of their ancestry. And if I didn't know enough about that culture, I would get in touch with people who did know. If their family wasn't accessible to me, I would make sure they took regular trips to Italy. I would make sure they had the opportunity, if they wanted. Hey guys, so I realised that I actually I started my wig a bit higher than I would normally like to have it, but it laid really well in this new method, you know, like super well. In fact, the hairline does need a bit more plucking, to be perfectly honest, but everything else looks super good. I'm super happy with that. Guys, don't forget to sound off in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Should your partner be colorblind? Should race not be an issue? Should it just be something that is just and black or white, we don't really need to discuss it any more than that? Or is it something that needs to be acknowledged, maybe even discussed at certain times, and something that should take an important part when it comes to raising any kids that end up being biracial? Let me know, especially in terms of dealing with family members where maybe they may not really like you because you are a different race to their son. Like, should that just be brushed under the carpet, like, or should that be acknowledged? Like, nah, my parents a little bit racist, you're gonna have some problems, this is what we need to do. So guys, don't forget to sound off in the comment section. This hair will be linked in my description box. The curls, bang, it's super full. I'm looking good, we're feeling good. Don't forget to subscribe as well before you go. I'll catch you guys soon.
Classic.